Well, hello again, it's Helen Norton, and today is day 5 of my 30-day watercolour challenge, and I've got all these so far. Well, there we are, 4 already done, and I'm going to do number 5 today. I'm just getting myself ready for today's work, and I've been thinking overnight that while I have that other water painting, backdrop already prepared, I might do a garden, like a sort of a garden-y scene, because I want to mix it up so that every day there's something very different for you to actually look at and to experiment with as far as technique's concerned. So I've got an idea where I'm just going to have like a sort of a very simple foreground and a very simple background, but it's going to be, I guess you could say, various greens and bushy things. So it's going very well. I'm enjoying myself immensely. I hope you are too. And I think we just better get cracking on it. No more mucking around. Let's get started. Today is day 5. 5. I'll use that for something else later. With my plan today to make a little kind of garden scene, I've just got my phthalo green palette back out again because I think I'm going to use some of that green. So very carefully, you've got to put that down there. And I need my blue tub again. See how often we use that? And I'm also going to use my crappy old palette, which is full of colour. So I do need some different types of greens today. So the basic principle is fairly straightforward. I've got in mind just to have sort of a complete garden scene in the background and just a little bit of blue sky. I'm going to start with a bit of sky at the top, and it won't cover the whole lot. I'll take it right across. That's quite strong, so I'll get rid of that now, and I'll bring it down and weaken it and soften it to give it a kind of a feeling of it being a graded sky. Take it down there. Don't want it to be too heavy duty, but maybe a bit more than that. Just that bit of hair there. Actually, oh, see, I've got that. I just should have put that on like that. That gives a bit nicer grade. I think that'll do. I'll just dry that off. And now I'm going to bring some green down. But before I do, I might just put some distant trees in using a very thin wash of ultramarine. I've just cleaned up one of these for ultramarine blue because I keep using it and you can't see it. So a bit of ultramarine blue, which we're going to make quite passive, as in not strong. And I'm just going to try it on here as an idea, like the distant trees. Well, that's a bit strong. Not too many. They are a bit strong, so I'll just take a bit of that pigment out. Maybe just a sort of a sense of a bush, the tops of distant bushes, something like that. And we'll come in with some stalks, tree trunks, with the same approach. Very light amount of paint, quite watery. Just giving it, oh, that's a bit strong. Just pull that out with a dry brush. There we go. That should do for now. Well, actually, I'm going to dry that first because I want the sharp edge. So now I want to go into the greens. I've got some, I'm not sure what that is, probably sap green, but I would like to start with an olive green. What have I got in here? Olive green. Olive is my favourite because it's so subtle. It's not as dark as I thought, but we can make it darker by using some of this crazy stuff here, but I don't want too much of that. That will be used with great caution. If I wanted like a sort of a bluey green in the background, which I do, I'll take a bit of the blue, the ultramarine blue, a bit of the olive, mix it up. And then this can, you see, it makes a really nice kind of olivey colour. It's just a bit too, I don't want it to be so rounded on the edge of the brush. I want it to be more random. I'll put that down as a kind of a base underneath everything. You see? And then I'll work back into it. And then I might deepen the greens. You can see that's a much more olive colour. And I think I'm going to just jump into that crazy phthalo, and as you'll see, that really darkens things up. So with caution, really deep feeling in there. And I also want a sort of a sense of colour peeping through here, like a transparency. Believe me, this will work out. And I also need, that's just a bit of the light phthalo, Australian red gold. My palette is loaded, so I'll just use it in here, into the sienna palette. And see if I can put a bit of magic into the background. See what I mean? It's just letting it do the cloudy thing. And this will make some gorgeous kind of energy underneath the paint by just dropping it in there now. And what I'll do is I'll take it right down like this, even though it looks a bit extreme, and I want to put a little bit of green into that, whatever that is, I don't know. You think I've gone mad, don't you? I kind of have. Pull that out, and then that will do now. It needs drying, and quickly. Okay, I didn't dry it all up here because I don't want to. I want to have a bit of dynamism in that top area. So I'm looking for some deep darks. So to get that, I've got the phthalo green on its own without the blue. I'm going to throw in some olive. See if I can get that really dark green that I want, because it's going to be the backdrop for what my figure will be. I almost feel like I need a different, I keep feeling like I'm not using the brush I want, and you'll keep hearing me say it over and over. It's just an instinct that I want a bigger brush. So I'll just have to use the brush as if it is big. And be more generous and loose with how I use it. I just want that to kind of ease back as if it's going into the shadows, you know, sort of distance. And then if I want to get some treetop stuff in here, I need to have some sort of gouache that's going to brighten it up. So I'll use a bit of this, see what happens when I throw a bit of this yellow up into the top. It isn't the exact colour I'm looking for. I'm looking for a gouache gold ochre. Do I have it? What's that? Oh, that's dry. That's what that is. You know, I don't. So what I'll do is I'll have to make one. Take a brilliant yellow, for example, and then I'll mix it with something like a sienna, or maybe just a bit of the red gold. Let's try that. All right. And then what I want to do, yeah, that's looking good. Let's have a look. Yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll put a bit of white into it. Let's see how that comes up. It's still a little bit bright, but it does look quite snazzy. Just put it up the top as if it's sort of catching the light. It's just a little bit too candy-ish. Okay, I'm going to take my red gold. I'm going to take some white. There we go. That's what I'm after. That's right. I just want some random events here. Okay, it might be time for me to dry. See how it's going all over the place? Absolutely happy with that. What I'm doing is I'm using the drips to make what might be sort of like random tree trunks. Seeing as that's come up, let's do more of it. Let's amplify that. So I'll use, we want to not, you know what I need? I need exactly what I've got here, which is this is an Australian leaf green dark. This is a proper dark green. So So I'll pop it in here. That's more like it. It's kind of like a phthalo green mixed with like reds and things to take away that phthalo colour. So I've got it plenty on here. Let's see what happens if I put some big blobs on there, which are quite wet. Let's see what happens if I do that. Right, that's a good dark colour, isn't it? And then a bit of extra water than what I would normally. Okay, wish me luck. Here we go. Woo! Down she goes. Well, that'll do. I didn't plan on that, but it happened anyway, so they're probably going to be right in the way of my composition, but I'm not too worried about it because we can easily fix that. If we want the trees to stop, I did that on purpose, by the way, you saw me. If we want to stop it there, let's have a look at what we can do. So we want to take them back. Let's see, something that's a bit stiffer like that, little brush there, and just take it back up. There we go. And that way we can use the foreground like we intended. And I'm actually being quite rough on that paper. Put some gold back in, maybe a bit of white into that gold. Yes, I probably shouldn't have done that. I knew I was being naughty when I was doing it, but never mind. It was really just to show you that you can do that. How exciting is that? Okay, let's go, because sometimes those accidents work out. What I might do is amplify some tree trunks in the background by taking a darker colour, some sepia, tree sticks in the background, but it's a little bit too strong. I think it's time for me to put my little character in. And you wouldn't have to. I mean, you could just finish this off with a bit of foreground business and it would be fine, just as a little landscape. But now, you know me. There's no show without an animal. I guess we could just do a cow. I was going to do another dog, but let's do a cow. Probably just a brown one. Okay, so how will he look? Well, we're just doing like a bit of a log. We'll get started. Again, I'm just making up this cow. What does a cow look like? Let me think. I'll just make a big cow log because this is, after all, a fiction. I think I need him to be bigger. Right, so he's going to be a big bull maybe. Right, so you'll have his chest down like that. Yeah, that's right. And then, oops, that's George just snorkeling in the background. Sort of a bit like that. You know, we don't want him to be too fancy. And probably got a big chest part. Where's his head? It's kind of like there. Oh, that doesn't quite look right, does it? I don't think I'll be getting many steaks out of that big boy. Kind of feels like his leg should be coming down a bit more. And then, I used to do these big stylized bulls many years ago. I'm sure he's not the most prized looking chap you'll ever see. But we'll give him some big ears off to the side and head. I'll have to give him some big nostrils. He's definitely got a bigger head than a body, so let's try that and see where do we go with him. Remember, this is fictional, and so we'll just make him have these big pretend nostrils, like as if he's got a big snorty nose, and we need those ears sorted out. So it's a bit hard to see that ear, so I just have to kind of put it offside a bit. And maybe I'll put, looks more like a little calf, doesn't he? We'll put a bit of pink in his ear to just make it exaggerated. There we go. He's not looking like a coward or a bull at all. He's looking like some other creature. Don't care. Now a bit of dark nostril business for drama. Oh, that's too big, it's the wrong shape. Big dramatic nose, and we need some eyes. So, all right, so if I want to make him like a bit kooky, I will use some dramatic eyes so that he's really silly, sort of a bit cartoony. Right, so put his eyes like that. There we go. Totally ridiculous. And we'll just finish him off with some black in the middle. Oops, that's too wet. Oh, it's more like a cartoon. I made a mess of it because it, see, just a tiny bit too wet and you bugger it all up. Okay, I have to redo that. There we go. I'll use that to lighten up the top of his head a bit. Very good, it helps. So that even that back part will have more form if I do this. So put a lighter shade over his back like that. And all I've done is added a little bit of gouache, white gouache, to the burnt sienna, right? And then we can actually make him look a little bit more three-dimensional. And, you know, take his little head up. Well, he's probably got a little tuft of hair on top. Right. Now I feel like we're getting better. So, okay, I'll take his, go back into his head again. This is how it goes. It's just a process. You know, I never get it right first up. Often I'm mucking around until I'm not mucking around. As you can see, I'm not pre-drawing anything. So it's totally freehand. So how it works out, yeah, sure, you can get really good and, you know, your first go will work when you know, the brush hits the page, but generally there's an adjustment. And I think the myth is that when you're using watercolour, you can't manipulate like I am. There's his little business underneath. Putting a little darkness there to give him more form, and that leg, a little bit of darkness there for that leg, same as this one at the back. I've just popped in a bit of that sepia. Right, so I'm not trying to make a realistic bull here. I'm just trying to give him form so the cartoon is kind of believable. Now, let's have another crack at his eyes, but before I do, I'm just going to put like his, as if he's got like a big dark, you know, like a brow that goes over, and he has like a kind of a ridge of his nose that comes like that. Yeah, that makes sense. And probably a bit more light. They usually have like this big sort of furrow in the middle, like that. You know, with a big sort of like frown mark. And he's looking like a decent bull. Now he's got a grumpy looking face. All right, yeah, big nostrils, totally outsized, don't care, as we said. Okay, he's got character at least. All right, now let's see if we can bring him home. So I'm going to reinforce that ridge across there. So it's like a big heavy brow, and it goes, generally there's a little frowny bit there. Then I want to do those crazy eyes. So this time I need to be careful. So I'm going to make them like grumpy eyes, like that. Yep, that's good enough. And now let's see if I can not make an error with his pupils. I think what we need is like a little shadow, sort of a greeny brown. I'll just bring that out so it looks sort of natural. Okay, that just anchors him to the ground. And I guess we kind of could have some other element, like maybe just a few little, oh, you know, you could do all that jangy stuff where you go blip, blip and put splatters on the ground and all that. If you like, we could just do with a few more little strokes. This would be good where you actually use a pencil or something to give yourself some fine lines. But if you want to stay pure, don't do that. Just get a tiny brush and, you know, just do a few little, but not too much, because it literally gets too much. And the charm is the simpleness of the image. It's probably almost finished. I might just fix up those trees a little bit. It's probably done. I suppose what we could do is add a little bit of intensity in the foreground to juice it up a bit. So the way I would do that is, I don't want like masses and masses of detail. So I shall try and be controlled here. And just get that in the frame and just use a bit of, I'm wetting the ground but not soaking it, and I'm going to just pop a little bit of colour, like a dark red or something. I think that is enough. If you wanted to sparkle it up a little bit, like I said, you know, to use like a, you know, a bit of splatter, but it looks like splatter. And the other way would be to just maybe put, as if they were like little tiny, you know, you had some little tiny everlastings or something, you know, just sort of a couple of, you know, a little bit of random dots. It's a bit hard to do random, that's why I suppose splots or splats are more random. And then it's still only a clue, but you can actually just work into that like that. See, those little puddles of paint can be pulled down to make it look very natural. So I'll just show you again. So you put like a puddle dot, like that. Maybe bigger down the bottom, and then you just pull out from that. So you just pull a little strand out of the dot just on the edge, and then you get like a little, you know, sort of a whatever daisy thing. And if you wanted to, you could do more, and the more would be where you say take something like that and add, now that it's dry, you know, like a dot or something, even some petals to indicate just a little bit more texture on the flower. And each time you do something like that, if you don't overdo it, it just adds a bit of sparkle. While we're at it, we'll just finish off his, and that is just, you know, the old dot in the business, which you do not have to do all the time. Okay, let me just make sure I get this right, because I always... There we go, I got it. I'm happy with this painting. Thank you for joining me for this one, which was day 5, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the next one.